Welcome to a brief introduction to the code engine, a solution to a fairly common problem that isn't as obvious to identify in an existing product, but that, at least in my experience, occurs more often than one would expect. That problem is the need for application flexibility and customization level that is very difficult or impossible in some instances to achieve with configuration alone. The demonstration will cover the problem, the scope, possible solutions, and why Code Engine stands out as a superior approach to solving them. I have seen some products that undergo such frequent changes that the development teams have a hard time catching up with or meeting the requirements on time. In some instances, the number of changing requirements may contribute to the extra workload of the developers. In some instances, an activity or a task within an existing product may be best done by the business team, but there is no suitable interface or tool to perform that work. So the development team picks up the work and adds to their plate, to the backlog. In other cases, portions of the application logic could possibly be split onto, let's say, one maintained by the business team and then one that truly belongs with the development work. Delineating and splitting is likely a difficult task and slips to the bottom of the product backlog, and that leaves the development team handling changes in code. Um, One scenario I've seen multiple times is the required level of behavioral flexibility um, at different levels of the application, especially in SaaS products, that is difficult to build into a new or existing product, and yet it would save something like that would save a lot of time for the developers and streamline the work of the business team if they just had a way to update certain values or behavior within the application. So, with the problem defined as lack of application flexibility to meet business demand for frequently changing and often large in quantity and low in complexity requirements, we can look at the application levels at which this issue could be identified and also addressed. Whether the application is a multi-tenant SaaS system or something used internally, let's say by a business team for their own purpose, the shortcomings, like the one I defined just a bit earlier, can occur at any level, whether there is a frequently changing requirement that impacts application-wide behavior or one that requires something different, say for each active user within the application. The problem is the same, but it may occur at any level within the application. There are some options when we talk about solutions. More likely options are categorized into a few listed here. Data tier customization assumes use of storage to store serialized logic that is interpreted and executed by the application at runtime under certain conditions and against a certain object within an appropriate lifecycle stage for that object. It carries the cost of higher data I/O, and unless is developed for performance, the cost of interpretation and execution of that deserialized pseudocode against the target objects. Webhook and callback customization are instances where the customization itself is provided as an external service, which requires a team to develop and maintain it externally and has an extra cost of the network communication and maintenance of the API and the contracts and so on. The predefined expressions, as name suggests, corner us or the users into a few predefined options that are kind of selectively executed at runtime based on the selection criteria, based on maybe a user profile or a tenant ID and so on. Then there is Code Engine. Code Engine addresses all of these concerns that I have just listed. It also stores the code in a repository of your choice, but it stores actual compilable code, not something you'd need to interpret. It has efficiencies built in to minimize the I/O and offer unparalleled performance by caching and in-memory assemblies. There's really no physical footprint of the execution of Code Engine on a server. Um, because everything is handled in memory, performance is unparalleled. There is no limit to how many different instances of special rules and custom logic one may want to create and use across application. There is no factor that would kind of box us into a few options only. There is really no limit to those variations. One more, the development team spends minimal effort, truly minimal effort, on incorporating and maintaining the solution within their product. The concept of code engine solution revolves around its most important goals. Um, Listing here its ability to compose and test code at runtime, ability to easily use that composed logic throughout the application efficiently, maintaining expected performance level, promoting solution adoption, one of the important ones, um, by really keeping it very easy to use for both developers and users, and then letting developers decide on the boundaries of the levels of customizations within their solutions, within their products, instead of setting own limits. Here I'm sharing some information about the project. The web is the website that I maintain with some information about an overview of the solution. I have the NuGet packages out on NuGet um, under Armad Software Company. GitHub, yeah, the solution at this point is open source, and so you can look at the code. And it is hosted under Armad Software LLC on GitHub. If interested, please submit any ideas, issues, reports, praise, or constructive feedback on GitHub. I hope that you find this solution, Coda Engine, useful and find a good use either in a personal project or within your company. And I appreciate any feedback that you can offer. Thank you.